Om Gananam Tva Ganapatigam Havamahe Kavim Kavinamupamashravastamam Jeshtarajam Brahmanam Brahmanaspata Anashrunvanutibhisi Dasadanam Shri Mahaganadhipataye Namaha Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om. Dear friends, from today we will be starting this Kathopanishad. Before starting, a word of introduction about myself. I have been teaching for this Advaita live stream channel for the last say about 6 months or so or more. That is, I think, precisely from 15th of August last year. And I have been teaching Gita almost regularly. And from the month of October, we also started Ishavasya Upanishad, and I completed Ishavasya in the last Thursday, on the last Thursday. So from today, we will start Kathopanishad. So my introduction, as I was saying, I worked in a government, for those who have joined new, my introduction is that I worked in the government, Andhra Pradesh government, for about 34 years. And while working also, I was interested in Sanskrit studies. I was doing some studies of Upanishads, etc. And I was lucky to have some gurus like, say, Dr. Pullala Sri Ramachandrudu, who was a Mahamahopadhyaya, and then who also received a Padma Shri. And then later I was also fortunate to listen to the lectures of Swami Tattvavidananda Saraswati. These two people I consider as my gurus, Dr. Pullala Sri Ramachandrudu and Swami Tattvavidananda Saraswati, and I have been fortunate that I was shaped by them. And so that is it. And now I think we will go ahead with this Kathopanishad. And the reason why I am teaching is that, as I explained in the last in my introduction to Ishavasya, it is by way of repaying this Rushi Runam. There is a concept of Rushi Runam. As soon as a man is born, he is born indebted. He is born indebted according to our tradition. He has 3 types of indebtedness. One is an indebtedness to the Rishis. The Rishis means the people who have, who are the originators of this culture, who are the originators of these Vedas and Upanishads and all these things. Then there is again a Pitru Runam, our own parents. That is another Runam. Then there is a Runam to the whole society. We are actually dependent on the society. Every minute we are dependent on the society. So for society we are supposed to do something. So that is called Devarunam. Devarunam by way of Yajna. Devarunam has to be repaid by way of Yajna. Yajnena Devebhyaha. The mantra says, Jayamano vai Brahmanaha Tribhir Runavan Jayate. The moment a person is born, he is born with 3 debts. Then the way to repay is that Brahmacharyena Rushibhyaha. By doing this Brahmacharya. Brahmacharya means not staying in bachelorhood, but then this desire to know Brahman. And then this Brahma Vichara, constantly being engaged in Brahma Vichara is Brahmacharya. That is, we are trying to know what exactly is the supreme truth. So that, in fact, that is what is the focus of all our rishis. That is what all our rishis, ancient rishis did. And by continuously engaged in that, we are repaying the debt of those rishis, because we are transferring that intellectual inheritance to our next generations. Then Pitrurunam Prajaya Pitrubhyaha, and we have to get married and we have to get our children and then educate our children in the proper way, make them proper citizens in the society, so that they will also continue the tradition. So that is Prajaya Pitrubhyaha, that Pitrurunam is repaid in that manner. And Yajnena Devebhyaha, Devanam Runam. How is that repaid? Deva means gods. God here again, it means Yajna. The concept of Yajna, if we have seen this, chapter 3 of Gita, and which we are going to see in chapter 4 of Gita, The meaning of yajna is it has a very wide meaning. It is not merely some Ritviks coming together and then chanting some mantras and giving some offerings into the fire. That is not the only thing. Any socially beneficial act is a yajna. Because yajna involves, it is a principle of coexistence. It depends on the principle of coexistence, where things like dhanam, daya, ahimsa, so many things are involved in that yajna. You are compulsorily supposed to do so many dhanams. You are compulsorily expected to feed poor people, feeding the poor. And then this Pancha Mahayajnas also we know, that is Deva Yajnam, Pitru Yajnam, Atithi Yajnam. Atithi Yajnam is feeding various types of guests. So like that, Brahma Yajna, this Brahmacharya itself. So these are the various types of yajnas which are certain societal functions which are conducive for social, for mutual benefit in the society. So this is this is the way in which a man has to repay the debts. So this is the reason why I am also engaged in this repayment of Rushi Runam, basically to see that the tradition which has been handed over, this intellectual tradition which has been handed over to us by all the rishis, that tradition, it is continued, preserved, and then transmitted to the next people. Next people means the next generation of teachers. So that is it. Then of course in institutions, there are certain institutions where even religion is an institution where this religious knowledge, this institutional knowledge is there. But unfortunately in our religion, there is no such institution. There are, in other religions, there is a very well-defined institution, there is a very well-defined organizational network where this institutional memory, all this tradition is preserved, this learning is preserved. But unfortunately in our tradition, it is left to the individual. Whether it is fortunately or unfortunately, every man is expected to do this Swadhyaya and Pravachana. Every man, after reaching a particular level, he has to do this Brahmacharya. He has to be engaged in this pursuit of reality, pursuit of what exactly is absolutely real. So every person is expected to do this, this pursuit, and then every man is supposed to preserve this knowledge, because there is no other institution as such for us. We are supposed to do this Swadhyaya and Pravachana. This is again, which is a mandatory thing for every person. Swadhyaya Pravachanabhyam na pramaditavyam. That is what Taittiriya Upanishad says. You are not supposed to neglect this Swadhyaya, that is studying whatever field of Veda which has been assigned to you by tradition. And then Pravachana. You are supposed to propagate it. You are supposed to teach it. So, and prepare the future teachers. So that is the motive here. So that is again one reason why I have been teaching. So the methodology, that is rather who are my target audience. I do not know who is listening on the other side of the internet. I am speaking into the internet with one audience, one person who is incidentally controlling this entire equipment and whatnot. He is also a good student here. But apart from this, I do not know at what point of time and where the people are listening to me. But then, if they have some primary knowledge of Sanskrit, it will be of great benefit, because some acquaintance with Sanskrit is very essential. Because my approach is like what I am doing in the case of Gita. I will be reading the text. I will also be reading Shankaracharya's Bhashyam. Shankaracharya's Bhashyam, I may do it in a rather faster manner, because Gita Bhashyam, every word I am stopping and explaining. Here, maybe in important places where I will stop and explain, here we will move rather fast. So that is what I want to do. I want to read out the whole Bhashyam, explain the meaning of each and every sentence. So that is what I propose to do. So in that context, if there is a student who has some knowledge of Sanskrit, he can be a good teacher. He can be a good future teacher if only he listens to this slightly attentively. And my mission is that even if say half a dozen people, or even if some 10 people or half a dozen people listen to this completely and then know what exactly is there in the text, and then if they prepare themselves to be the future teachers, my mission, I deem it as accomplished. So that is what is my focus here. Then we will come to the subject as such. So this Upanishad, I gave an introduction, when I started this Ishavasya Upanishad, but maybe there may be some people who have joined new. So maybe I will, in brief, I will give some sort of introduction to what exactly is an Upanishad, and then where exactly does it fit in our whole scheme of things, in that whole Vedic literature, where does it fit in, etc. So this Vedas, we know there are 4 Vedas, and these 4 Vedas are broadly divided into 2 categories. Though there are of course 3 divisions, there are 4 divisions, people have made like that. For example, broad 2 divisions are the Karma Kanda and Jnana Kanda. That portion which deals with the rituals and various things, rituals, suppose you do this yajna, you will go to some Swargaloka. You do this some other yajna, you will get some other benefit. So this is one portion where the human aspirations, human desires, human needs, they are taken into consideration. There is other portion of Veda which is called Jnana Kanda. This Jnana Kanda takes into consideration the other higher needs. Man is not, he does not live by bread alone, it is said. Man doesn't live by bread alone. After fulfilling his physical needs, then he starts thinking. He starts thinking about what is the nature of this universe. Who has made this universe? Who is the creator? What is the absolute truth? Who am I? And what is my relation with that supreme reality? So he will start inquiring in that manner. So in order to answer that, the next question, the portion of the Veda is intended. The next portion of Veda means, that is called the Jnana Kanda. So these are the 2 broad divisions. This is one broad division. But of course, there is another division traditionally made, Mantra Brahmanayor Vedaha. Mantra portion, that is what is called Samhita, and Brahmana portion. Then again, Brahmana is again divided into Brahmana, Aranyaka and Upanishad. These 3 divisions. So we need not go into all those divisions. I will broadly say that this Upanishad is located towards the end of these Vedas. There are 4 Vedas, and at the end of these, in the end portions of these Vedas, we have got certain Upanishads. We have got these Upanishads located at the end of these Vedas. So when we say Veda, the end of the Vedas, which we should see that it is the final word of the Veda. Suppose I give lecture for 1 hour, and at the end I sum up and then I say something. So whatever I sum up and then whatever I say at the end, that is my ultimate focus, isn't it? So like that, this Upanishad which is located at the end of the Veda, it is also called Vedanta. Veda plus Anta, Vedanta, that is located at the end of this Veda is called Vedanta. So these Upanishads are like that. And Upanishads, of course, they are fairly large in number. There are about 108 Upanishads, as we know. And then among these 108 Upanishads, Shankaracharya is supposed to have written commentary on 12 Upanishads. 10 major Upanishads are there. In addition, that is Isha, Kena, Katha, Prashna, Munda means Mundaka, Mandukya, Taittiriya, Chandogya, Aitareya, Bruhadaranyaka. These 10 Upanishads are the major Upanishads. In addition to that, he is also supposed to have written commentary on Shvetashvatara and also on Nrisimhatapaniya. So these 12 Upanishads are there, where, with the Bhashyam means the commentary of Sri Shankaracharya available. So anyway, so let us see what exactly is this Upanishad. Upanishad is, as I said, it is something to do with this knowledge. Knowledge of what? Knowledge of one's self only. Knowledge of one's self, knowledge of the world, knowledge of the Supreme, knowledge of everything. Knowledge of self means not only the body and mind complex, but knowledge of the Jagat, knowledge of the what exactly is the creation, knowledge of the whole, what exactly is the supreme reality or supreme creator. So that is the thing. So this word, if we see that word Upanishad, if we examine, of course Shankaracharya also is giving in his Bhashyam he is giving. So I will not very elaborately deal with it, but very briefly I will say, it is made of 3, Upa plus Ni plus Sad. It is made of one root called Sad, which is having 2 prefixes. Upa is a prefix, plus Ni is a prefix, plus Sad. Upa plus Ni plus Sad becomes Upanishad. This root, every Sanskrit word has a root, or rather 99% of the Sanskrit words have some roots. They are made of some dhatu, what is called dhatu. So this root sad has three meanings. Visharana Gati Avasadaneshu. Visharanam means weakening. It has got the one meaning of this root is weakening. So what is it weakening? This Upanishad is supposed to give us enlightenment. Once you have some enlightenment, you will come out of your narrow bonds, narrow prejudices and all these narrow feelings. You will come out of these bonds. So it is going to weaken all these bonds which you have, weaken all your prejudices, etc. Which that is called Visharanam. Gati means attaining. What is it ultimately attaining? It is attaining the supreme reality. It is attaining the supreme reality. Whatever is that ultimate Brahman, what we call Brahma, is that supreme reality. That is what it is promising, and that is what it is leading actually. Then Avasadanam. Avasadanam is destroying. It is destroying. What is it destroying? It is destroying our ignorance, our ajnana. So on one way, it is weakening all our weaknesses, this mental blocks and prejudices and raga, dvesha, all these things it is weakening. The gati means it is helping us to attain that supreme Brahman. Number three, it is destroying. These are all simultaneously happening. It is not as though one after the other. The moment your bonds are gone, your ignorance is gone. The moment ignorance is gone, you have that means you have that knowledge of the Brahman. So that is like that. So these things they take place in all the three senses of that dhatu. This Upanishad, this word sad can be, this root sad can be explained or justified rather. So upa means samipe, near. It leads you near. Nishchayena, upa plus ni. Ni means nishchayena, definitely, surely. Definitely it is leading you to this. It is destroying your bonds. Definitely it is leading you to Brahman. Definitely it is destroying your ignorance. So this in this way this word is explained. Then we should also know what exactly is that prasthana traya. So this prasthana traya means, prasthana means path. In Vedanta, we come across the term prasthana traya, which any student has to remember. It is a word which has to be remembered. Prasthana means a path, an approach. So traya means three. The threefold path, the threefold approach. What is this threefold approach? One is called as Shruti path. Shruti means that which is heard. That which is heard is Shruti. Traditionally, the feeling or the belief is that Veda is something which is apaurushaya. It has not been written by somebody. It is not written by some human being, but that is revealed by that supreme Brahman himself. And then in that manner, these revelations they were made to certain rishis, and these rishis who had these revelations, they composed or compiled in whatever it is. So that has been the traditional view. So anyway, these rishis are the people who have seen these mantras, who have seen these, they have speculated over a period of a continuous speculation on what exactly is the nature of the ultimate. They have arrived at certain discoveries, let us say. They have arrived at certain facts. They have arrived at certain truths relating to the supreme reality. So this is called, this has been handed out from generation to generation by way of Shruti only. Shruti means a teacher tells the student, that student again tells another student. So like that, by way in that lineage of teacher, student. So in that manner it has been handed down over the generations. So that is what is called Shruti. Then Smruti is another thing. This Shruti is something which was confined to, it was regarded as some sort of very sacred thing. So it was not immediately available to each and every person. So for all people, in order to share this particular knowledge of what is there in the Smrutis, they simplified it and wrote some Smrutis. This Smruti, for example, Bharatam itself is a Smruti. Bhagavad Gita is called a Smruti. Then there are other Smrutis like Manusmruti, Parashara Smruti and various other Smrutis. But when we refer to this Prasthanatraya in the case of our Gita, in the case of Vedanta, we refer to this Gita only, and we don't refer to other Smrutis. We refer to Gita as a Smruti. The whole Mahabharatam is a Smruti. But then we don't refer to other texts like Parashara Smruti, Shankalikita Smruti, Narada Smruti. There are so many Smrutis, Ashtadasha Smrutis, famous 18 Smrutis are there. We don't refer to them. Then this Shruti Prasthana is that Veda, Upanishads as I said. Then Smruti Prasthana is this Gita. Gita is considered to be the essence of all the Upanishads. So this Gita is one Prasthana. Then Smruti Prasthana, Nyaya Prasthana. Nyaya means logic. In Sanskrit, Nyaya means logic. What is that logic? But the Prasthana, the path of logic. There is another book called Brahma Sutras. This Brahma Sutra, these are all aphorisms. You know what is an aphorism? Aphorism is a very small, pithy, strong statement, which is, say, it is something like a sutra. Sutra means a sort of definition. Sutra is a sort of definition on a particular thing. So these small sutras, very compact, say, sentences, these are called sutras. In fact, there is a definition for sutra also. Say that, what is that? Alpaksharam asandigdham saravat vishwatomukham. Alpaksharam. It should not contain very elaborate, description. When very limited, compact terms, in very precise terms, you have to define something. Any definition should contain very precise terms. Alpaksharam. Asandigdham, where there should not be any confusion. Sandeha should not be there. There should not be any type of confusion. There should be very, very clear, compact words. Saravat. Sarvatomukham, Saravat, they should have proper meaning. Sara means meaning. Sarvatomukham, they should be applicable in all circumstances. They should not be applicable. It is not as though they are applicable in one circumstance, they are not valid in some other circumstance. Not like that. They should be valid at all times. That particular meaning should be valid at all times so far as that definition goes. Saravat Vishwatomukham. Akshobhyam anavadyam cha. Akshobhyam, it should not be, nobody should be able to shake it. Anavadyam, there should not be anything faulty. Sutram, sutravido viduhu. So far, that sutra, there is a definition. Okay, we need not go into that. So this Brahma Sutras, there are 555 such sentences which are composed by one rishi called Badarayana. People say that the same Vyasa, Sage Vyasa, who edited all these Vedas, who also wrote this Mahabharata, and who also wrote some Puranas, he is the same person who is Badarayana. But of course, there is some sort of difference of opinion among scholars. Some scholars feel that Badarayana is slightly different is somebody different from Sage Vyasa. We need not go into that. But anyway, that Prasthana is called Nyaya Prasthana. That is the path of logic. Why is it called a path of logic? Because it takes into consideration, it takes so many sentences from Upanishads. Each, aphorism or each sutra in those Brahma Sutras, it has some sort of Vishaya Vakyam. It has got one line taken from some Upanishad somewhere. And that particular line, what does it mean? What does it mean actually in that particular context? For example, a word like Akasha is used. Is that word Akasha means space. Is that word used in the sense of the ordinary element, the 5 elements which we say Prithvi, Apas, Tejo, Vayu, Akasha? Is it a Bhuta Akasha? Is it one of the 5 Bhutas? Or in that context, is it referring to Parabrahma, Supreme Brahman? So like that there is a discussion. So he quotes, so in this context it is said like this, in another context it is said like this. So in this particular context, say this word Akasha means this. So similarly, we saw another example in Ishavasya, just completed Ishavasya. The words like Vidya and Avidya. The word Vidya usually means the standard meaning or the accepted meaning is Vidya means Brahma Vidya. Avidya means Ajnana. The Ajnana means all other education which is apart from that Brahma Vidya is called Ajnana. Then in another context, Vidya means Upasana. Avidya means Karma. So in that context, those words are used. So these words are taken, and then there is a discussion on that. Okay, that discussion takes place in say about 4 or 5 such sutras. 4 or 5 sutras. They are grouped into what is called an adhikarana. These 555 sutras, they are grouped into some adhikaranas, some small topics. Under each topic there may be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 aphorisms. So like that is the structure of Brahma Sutra. So this Brahma Sutra, because it logically goes into each and every apparent contradiction in these Upanishads. Because in all these Upanishads, what the sages have done is that they have taken out all these lines, they have tried to establish some Ekavakyata. Ekavakyata is unity of thought. You see, in any huge mass of, literature, a huge mass is there. Vedas, they are fairly huge. Then the Upanishads themselves are 108. Then among the 108, they have taken some primary principal Upanishads. And in those principal Upanishads, they have to take out what are the sentences which are to be clarified. In one context, it is said like this. In another context, it is said in a slightly different way. So how they should be correlated? How should they be properly understood? If it is a mass of, it's a bundle of contradictions, then the people will reject it. So what has been done is to see that there is an Ekavakyata. So what is the context? In this context, what is the meaning? In another context, what is the meaning? So when you examine all that, there is an Ekavakyata in all these things, and that Ekavakyata has been established by this Badarayana in these Brahma Sutras. So that is called Nyaya Prasthana. So we have seen these three parts. One is the Shruti Prasthana, directly Upanishad. Then Smriti Prasthana, that is the path of Gita, which is supposed to be the condensation of it is supposed to be the summary of all these Upanishads. Then Nyaya Prasthana, which is Brahma Sutras. So these three Prasthanas, this is one useful concept which we have to remember. Then generally in these Upanishads, there are four topics which are dealt with. That is the Brahma Swarupa. What is the nature of that supreme reality? So that is what ultimately our aim is, to know what exactly is that. So this Brahma Swarupa is one subject. And then Jiva and Jagat. Jiva means the individual, the living being, not only human being but all beings. Jiva, whatever is alive is called a Jiva. Then Jagat, the whole universe. In other words, the Srishti as such. How has this Srishti? Srishti means the creation. How has this creation come into existence? So that is another subject which is dealt with. Jiva, Brahma is one. Then the whole Srishti, including Jiva and Jagat, is another thing. Then, in order to know this Brahma Swarupa, what should we know? What should we do? This is not something, the speciality of this Brahma Jnanam is that all other knowledges, you can go to a library and then you can you can read a book and then you can know. Nowadays, of course, you can Google. If you don't know, you Google. That is a standard phrase now. If you don't know anything, you Google and then you will get it. You go Google or maybe Yahoo or some other thing, whatever it is. So you can go to a place and then you can acquire the knowledge of a particular thing, which means you are putting some information into your brain. What is knowledge after all? We are putting a lot of information into our brain. So ultimately, what exactly is this brain, and what is that force which is behind this brain? What is it that is illumining the brains of all these people? What is it that is making everybody think? Everybody means every human being think that 2 plus 2 is only 4 and 2 plus 2 is not 6 or 5. So there is some sort of built-in mechanism. There is a built-in mechanism. A human being has some limited perception. It is not as though his perception is totally, absolutely real and unlimited. We are able to see only a particular bandwidth of light. We are only able to hear a particular, bandwidth in, sound also, sound decibels. Then again, similarly, we can only feel to some extent. We can only smell to some extent. Dogs have a better sense of smell. Then bats and other things, they are supposed to have some other sixth sense which we do not have. Then this so-called 5 senses which we have, that itself is fairly limited. We do not know. We have very limited, in our own limited sense, we are able to perceive certain things and we think it is a reality. But what exactly is beyond this? What exactly is the reality which is, which is illumining your mind as such? What is it making everybody think that 2 plus 2 is only 4? So that is what is Brahman. So for knowing that, you have to understand your own nature of senses, your own functioning of the mind. So instead of looking outwards, you are supposed to look inwards. And then what Vedanta says is that there is a lot of spiritual sadhana which is required in this. Any other jnanam, for example, physics, chemistry, mathematics, whatever it is, you can go to a teacher and learn. But here, a teacher also is required. But then there is also an effort on your part which is required. Not merely knowing intellectually, it is not merely intellectually knowing, but understanding your own emotions, understanding your own raga, dvesha, that is likes, dislikes, anger, your passion, your own feelings like say ambition, greed, various things, compassion, all these positive, negative, all types of things, all these things have to be analyzed. And then Vedanta says, unless you have a chitta shuddhi, unless you have a clean slate, unless your mind is a clean slate, it cannot understand Brahman. So when we say that Brahma is something which is avikari, something which is immutable, it has nothing to do with any type of activity, it has no kind of connection with any type of karma phala, that is the result of any karma. So when we describe Brahma in that manner, if you want to understand that Brahma, if you want to get some type of illumination from that Brahman, you should also be equally pure. You should also make yourself equally pure in order to know what is that Brahman. That Chitta Shuddhi is something which is very much required. So for that Chitta Shuddhi, they say you have to go along this path of karma. You have to do this karma for Chitta Shuddhi. So this is called sadhana. Then not only karma, there is what is called meditation also. So there is a path of karma, there is a path of meditation, there is something called bhakti. So these are all things which are going to purify the heart, which is leading to Chitta Shuddhi. And also Chitta, say not only purity of mind, but also the mind should be very firm, it should not be fickle. Nischalatvam, that is, mind should be very firm, focused. So these two things are required. So all these two things are possible only by sadhana. So the Upanishad also tells about some sadhana. So it first tells about Brahma Swarupa, it tells about Srushti, that is Jiva and Jagat, and then also it talks about sadhana, the manner, all this, say in what manner, what is the type of sadhana you have to do. And then it slowly tells the sadhaka or a seeker, he has to go through certain drill. Then the last thing which also it describes is the Jnani Sthiti, that is, how does a realized person conduct himself? How do you recognize a realized person? What is the nature of a realized person? What is the nature of a Jnani? We have also seen in Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita, we have also seen that there is a Jnani. That Jnani can be somebody who is also engaged in some action. A Jnani simply, say for example, Sri Rama, take the case of Rama. Rama, when he was in his teens, Sage Vajasravas, he comes to him and then he teaches him Brahma Vidya. So by the time he went to the forest, he was already a Jnani. He was already doing a Nishkama Karma. Not Nishkama Karma, Jnani Karma. Nishkama Karma is different, Jnani Karma is different. So he was already a Jnani. And though he was a Jnani, he had a duty to discharge. Jnani does not mean somebody who is putting on some sannyasi clothes and whatnot. A sannyasi is definitely, that is the most desirable thing. A Jnani is supposed to take up sannyasa, which is the most desirable thing. But all people cannot do that. All people cannot do that because there is a certain duty cast on them. For example, king. A king is there. A king cannot abdicate his throne and then go to forest. A king can be a Jnani, and because of this prarabdha karma, that is a karma which is already begun to fructify, he is supposed to discharge his duties, and at the fall of his life, naturally he will be in that Videha Mukti. It is called Videha Mukti. So a Jnani will be doing that type of, he will be engaged in action sometimes, he may not be engaged in action sometimes. So like that, what is the position of a Jnani? We have also seen this in Sthita Prajna, the case of Sthita Prajna in Gita Bhashya. Sthita Prajnasya ka bhasha samadhisthasya keshava. We have seen, say about 15 to 20 shlokas. We have seen the nature of a Jnani, how he conducts himself, how he talks, how he behaves, what is his attachment to the external world, how he reacts to things. So we have seen all that. Yeah. So these are the things which which we see in any Upanishad. Then generally, how is it different from say any other say ritual or religion or anything like that? So for example, we have seen how is it different. We have to see how it is different from the first part of the Veda. First part of the Veda, I said, is a ritual. It tells about some heaven. It doesn't talk much about hell. It talks about devas and asuras. We don't have this concept of a devil. We don't have a concept of this devil, because devil is something. If you say that God is something different and devil is something different, then God will become a limited personality. God will become a limited personality, however powerful he may be. He may be a highly powerful man, but then so long as there is an adversary, so long as there is something called devil, then God himself is a limited man. So anyway, we need not go into that. Our concept is that the concept of Deva and Asura. Devas and Asuras, our definition, the way Upanishad describes is, Devas are nothing but our own, say, thought processes which have been refined by Shastra over a period of time. Shankaracharya's Bhashyam in Chandogya Upanishad says, Devas means Devaha Shastrodbhasita Indriya Vruttayaha. Indriya Vruttayaha means our own activities of Indriya senses and our own activities of the mind, our own thought processes which occur. So these, when they are refined, Shastrodbhasitaha, when they are fairly well illumined by the Shastra, when they are in accordance with that Shastra, so only when they are refined by Shastras, they are called Devas, because they are Deva. The very word Deva means Div, means that is shining, that is something which is shining. Then Asura is something which is different. Asura means those who are indulging in sensual pleasures. Asushu ramante iti asuraha. That is how it is defined. So Devas and Asuras are not there in the sky fighting somewhere. Devas, the gods and so-called demons, they are not people who are there somewhere in the sky and then doing some war, something like some Star Wars or something like that. Devas and Asuras are our own people. Our own people means in our own human being, in our own human nature, there are some people who are in that Deva state. There are some people who are in the Asura state. And in one human being, in one single human being itself, there is a clash between these Devas and Asuras in our own human mind. So that is what Shankaracharya also says. This Adhyatmika Sangrama, Devasura Sangramo Nama Adhyatmika Sangrama, this so-called battle between the gods and demons is nothing but a battle in your own mind, Adhyatmika, within oneself. Adhyatma is something which means within one's self. This is a battle which constantly goes on within oneself. And okay, if this man succeeds in vanquishing all these evil ideas, he will be in that stage of a Deva. And somebody who is not able to vanquish these bad ideas and then who settles down in those bad ideas, he can be called an Asura. So this is the type of analysis which say the Upanishads do. Then if we see what exactly is the change between the Karma Kanda and Jnana Kanda, Karma Kanda takes care of, say, human needs, as I said. So there are certain human needs. How much time is there? Yeah, there is still a lot of time. So there are certain human needs which have been classified as Purusharthas, which have been called Purushartha. Purushartha means Purushena Arthyate, Prarthyate iti Purushartha. Those which are desired by human beings are called Purusharthas. What are the human needs, let us say? One is Artha. We need some prosperity. Then there is some other thing called Kama, various other desires. Artha and Kama. This Artha and Kama, suppose there is no restriction. Suppose there is no restriction in society about how one has to go about in order to fulfill his needs. There are certain human needs. And unless there is some restriction in society, unless there are certain norms, unless there are certain ethical values in society, everybody, I will come and I will enter your house and I will take away your property. You can do the same to me. And then somebody, whoever is stronger, he will be the boss. So that will be the law of the jungle, and society cannot allow it. So then what is called dharma, that is that which holds the society together, is called dharma. Dharanat dharma uchyate. That which holds the society from disintegrating is called dharma. And that dharma is what is called that ethical, let us say that code of conduct. So that is why while enumerating these human needs or purusharthas, we first tell the name of dharma. We don't say artha and kama. We say dharma, artha, kama, moksha. A man should know dharma first. Once he knows dharma, whatever artha he gets, whatever prosperity he gets, it should be according to dharma. If you are making money, it should be according to dharma. If you are fulfilling your desires, your kama, it may be physical desires, or it may be some other emotional desire, various other desires. That should be in accordance with the dharma. Dharma viruddho bhuteshu kamosmi bharatarshava. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna is going to say, Dharma viruddho bhuteshu kamosmi bharatarshava. Even kama is nothing different from me, he says. All manifestations which are there, they are manifestations of that Brahman only. So he says that kama also is nothing different from me. Now what is that kama? Dharma viruddha kamaha. That is the kama, that is desire, which is in conformity with the dharma, which is in consonance with the dharma, is myself. That is what he says. So that is why dharma, artha and kama should be attained in accordance with this dharma. So that is why we say dharma, artha, kama. These three purusharthas are covered in the first part of the Veda. So they say you do this particular yajna, you will go to heaven. You will have a nice time with that the Lord Indra there, and then Lord Indra and various other gods and whatnot. If you do all bad deeds, you will go to some bad lokas. We don't exactly say hell, etc. Hell, etc. They have come at a much later stage in Puranas actually. In Puranas, if you take a Purana like Garuda Purana, so these are Puranas which have come at much later stages. They don't have the same antiquity as Upanishads. So the purity of thought which we find in the Upanishads, you don't find in the Puranas. Puranas, they are meant to scare an ordinary man. Puranas basically are meant to be Arthavadas. In Veda there is a term called Arthavada. Arthavada is you praise a thing to the skies or denounce a thing to the depths of degradation. You praise something to the sky, yeah, you do this, you will go to heaven. So that is an Arthavada. On Shivaratri day, if you do Upavasa, you will straight away go and sit along with Shiva. Then if you don't do Upavasa, you will go to hell. That is again an Arthavada. Arthavada means praising too much or condemning too much. Well, you have to only see the overall meaning. You have to see the intention of the teller, the intention of the person, and you should not take it as a literal truth. So that is what is an Arthavada. So anyway, say we are in this dharma and artha and kama. The first portion of the Veda, as I was saying, it covers this dharma and artha, kama. Then the next portion is to talk about the Jnana Kanda, that has to talk about the supreme reality. So it says, once you attain that Jnana, you will go beyond all these things. You will go beyond the concept of heaven, you go beyond the concept of devas, asuras, you will go beyond the concept of varna and ashrama. In fact, in Upanishad there is a word called ati varna ashrami. Ati varna ashrami means a jnani goes beyond this varna and ashrama dharmas. Each varna and ashrama, they have got certain dharmas. So the one man goes beyond the ashrama dharmas. Yatra veda aveda bhavanti. These Vedas, they also become irrelevant. Vedas become irrelevant at particular stage. So what we see is, at the level of religion, the first portion of the Veda can be called that religion level, where there is a question of, it is a sort of belief system. Religion is what? Religion is basically a belief system. You do this particular ritual, you go to heaven. You do this something else, you will get a bad result. So this is a sort of ritual, this is a sort of belief system, where you identify some place called heaven, you identify a place called something else called bad loka, asura. So asurya namate loka, those bad lokas, adho lokas, let us say, those adho lokas, heaven, Vaikuntham, Kailasam, there is a structure, and then all those things, they are there at that level. But when you come to Upanishad says, all this thing is only at a transactional level. What you call heaven, what you call devas and asuras, they are only at a transactional level, in that level of ignorance only. So that is a lower level of reality. There is a higher level of reality which is beyond this thing, Swarga, this Adholoka, etc. All this, you go beyond this, and then there is a higher level of reality is that Supreme Brahman. The Supreme Brahman is something which you can't even say that Brahma has actually created this universe. When you talk about the creation of this universe, religion will say, okay, so and so God The God's name also is there. He is a male God invariably. Sometimes, of course, in Hinduism, we also have female deities. We have this Shakti, the concept of Shakti as the supreme thing. So the God is a male or some female. And then God has this particular structure. He has got so many attendants. He has got so many, say, powers with him. So this is how we define religion. But then Vedanta, when you come to Vedanta, Vedanta says you cannot think like that. Because like Vivekananda said, if an ant were to have intelligence, ant would imagine God with some, say, a huge ant with 1,000 heads and whatnot. So you cannot think in such anthropomorphic terms. And then God also, if he is just taking out some material from somewhere, like a potter takes some clay and makes a pot. If he takes out some material, then that material, is it external to him or is it part of him? So all these questions will come. If suppose the God is the maker, so he takes out some material and then breathes some life into that or gives some life into that, then that particular material, whatever is that material, it is something which is external to God. To that extent, God will become a limited person. So that material cannot be otherwise, it cannot be different from God, whatever you say. And then if it is only, is it a part of him, like a finger or hand, wrist, is it a part like him, a part like that? It cannot even be a part, because what you call as God, you cannot visualize it as say in anthropomorphic terms, that is in the shape of a man or a human being, or in the shape of something which is having some limbs. It may even extraterrestrial being, you can't visualize it in the shape of an extraterrestrial being. So it has to be a niravayavi. Niravayavi means something which are without parts, and it has to be something which is existing everywhere. Existing everywhere means not only on this earth, everywhere in the universe and beyond, much beyond the universe. It is of the nature of existence, and it is of the nature of consciousness or intelligence. It is of the nature of intelligence, because what we see, the ideas which we have, the mind which we have, this can be defined as an intelligence. Can be perceived as intelligence only. So there is something called existence, there is something called intelligence, and there is an all-pervading nature. That is what is called infinitude. So that is why the Upanishad says Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam. These three words are used. So in this manner, say the Upanishad goes about identifying that Brahman. So if you call pure intelligence, is it masculine or feminine? It cannot be masculine or feminine. It has to be referred to in neuter gender. So Vedanta is the only place where you refer to the supreme reality without any gender. It is neither in masculine nor in feminine. It is referred to in the neuter gender. So that is what you find the difference between Vedanta and a religion. Number one, Vedanta is not a belief system. Vedanta says tapasa brahma vijignyasasva. So you have your mind, you have your senses, you have got your body, you have got this prana. So all these things you have, this is the data you have, all this data you have, and then you look inwards and then try to find out what is the truth. Tapasa Brahma Vijay. Tapas means alochana. Tapa alochane, that is the meaning. So by alochana, by thinking, you know the reality. That is what it says. So Vedanta does not say in a sort of doctrinaire manner. It does not say in a sort of dogmatic manner. Yes, I say, you believe. That is, they say, Vedanta says, you think and say you find out. Then this thinking in what manner? Say inquiry from what we know, inquiry from the senses which we have, inquiry the mind which we have, and then the mind is able to perceive certain things outside. The mind is not able to see its own self. The mind also I see a particular thing. It is called a drushya. It is something which is seen. And I see my body. It is something which is seen, which means the body is not what I call I. Then similarly, all senses, what I say, the sense of smell, the sense of touch, all these things, I am able to separate myself from all these things. So it is not what I call I. Even the mind, I am able to say this mind also I am able to watch. So when the mind also becomes a drushya, the mind also is something which is not what I call I. So there is something which is behind the mind. So that is how it goes from the Upanishad starts inquiring from what we know, from known to unknown. In that manner, this sort of inward looking, Paranchi Khani Vyaturana Swayambhu, this Upanishad is going to say, unfortunately all the senses, they are outward bound. But the seeker, only some rare seeker, he looks inwards and then finds the truth. So we are asked to look inwards. So this is, say what we find, the basic difference between a religion and Upanishad. Upanishad says you go beyond this thing, this whatever you call it as, say, a ritual or a religion or a belief system. Any religion is a belief system. You got Shiva, Shaivism, you say. Shaivism means Shiva is the supreme person, and then he has got some, say, administrative structure, and then he has got a loka. And then all the Shaivites believe that they particularly go to Shiva Loka. Then if you go to a Vaishnava, he has got a separate, say, type of structure, a separate organizational structure. You go to Shakti thing, Shakti and then her attendant goddesses and whatnot, and then her own, say, structure, and then her own dispensation of justice, etc. Similarly, you go to other religions, say, outside India, they are also like that. So any religion is basically a system of beliefs. So Upanishad says you go beyond it and try to think for yourself as to what exactly is the nature of reality. So this is what we can say by way of introduction. And what is the ultimate phalam, or rather what is the ultimate result of this Upanishad? Result of Upanishad, as we were just saying, is that Brahma Jnana, Upanishad, Visharana Gati. Gati means attaining, helping us to attain what exactly is that supreme reality. Once you attain that supreme reality, what is the phalam? What is it? What is the internal change that comes in you? Say, it is not like any other knowledge. Any other knowledge will give you some change in you, some change in attitude. There is no doubt about it. But you are still in the worldly plane only. You are still in the worldly plane only. You may be a very, very intelligent man. You have got a lot of, a lot of intellectual inputs. But then your identity is still there. Maybe your identity has become stronger. But here, they say, the moment you say are in this path of Brahmajnana, your identity has to gradually weaken. Your identity has to gradually weaken, and then our identity of a religion, our identity becomes a sort of regionalism, this ism, that ism, all types of isms will disappear. In Vedanta, all isms have to disappear, and then this Brahma, the Jnani, is supposed to be somebody who will reach that particular stage of self-purification. Because this Chitta Shuddhi is what is internal, what is actually meant. This internal transformation is something what is actually intended in the knowledge in Vedanta. In Vedanta means not only in this Upanishad but in other Upanishads also. By the way you do some sadhana, not only by the time you read the Upanishad, I will not say like that. By the time you read Upanishad, there will be internal transformation, I will not say, because simply reading is not enough. Along with this Shravana, we have to do this Manana, we have to do not Nididhyasana, we also have to do the spiritual practices, we have to go along that path, whatever is that path which has been mentioned, and then this Abhyasa and Vairagya, you have to slowly understand your own complexities of mind, your own Raga, Dvesha and whatnot, and then slowly try to weaken them. So we have to only take the help of these Upanishadic statements. Upanishadic statements are like guides. They are the guides. They are the people. They are the rules. They will say, okay, this is the path, you go like this. So, but it is for us to go. The Guru will only show the path. He is not actually leading you. The Upanishad also is showing you the direction. It is showing you the direction, but you have to do that effort internally. That internal transformation has to take place. So the phalam is an internal transformation where that identity gets dissolved. All our isms and all these hatreds, etc., all these things, they get dissolved. And if only we are really honest seekers, suppose you imagine a world where everybody, he forgets his, his own say ego based on a religion. Yes, my religion is great, my religion is great. And then if only he wants to know the truth, what exactly is the reality, what exactly is the reality of the world, then there will be no crusades, there will be no fighting, there will be no clashes among say religions, no clashes among civilizations. Mankind will be more in a more peaceful manner, in a more happy manner, if only we understand reality, if only we have no agenda. If only we have no agenda to say push forth our own views, our own say belief system. You come beyond this belief system. So that is what it says. And it says freedom from all bondages, as I was saying, this varna and ashrama bondage. Then another question will come. If this say Upanishad, knowledge of the Upanishad, if it is going to lead you to that Brahmajnana, you are finding everything as Brahma only. You are seeing the whole universe as Brahman, manifestation of Brahman. Isha Vasyamidagam Sarvam, that is what Upanishad says. That is, you enwrap the whole universe with the idea of Brahman. You see Brahma everywhere, that is what it says. Once you say that, this man may become rather pessimistic, cynical and whatnot. A human being also has to perform some action. He has to get some livelihood, he has to earn his salary. So the Vedanta says, he will not become cynical. He will neither become cynical nor pessimistic. On the other hand, he will be acting in a more brisk manner. That is what Gita says in that shloka, Sakta karmanya vidvamso yatha kurvanti bharata tata kuryad vidvans tatha asaktaha chikirshur lokasangraham. The third chapter of Gita we have seen this thing. Just as a person, an unwise man, is so glued to his karma phalam, so glued to certain objectives, and then he is moving towards those objectives. He is having certain goals, certain goals and aspirations, and he is moving towards those goals. Just as an unwise man does, a wise man does equally enthusiastically, without having that great say clinging for that karma phala. Without having that great clinging for karma phala, he will do the same actions. He will do the same actions in a more enthusiastic manner. So that is what it says. So we need not be afraid that a man who reads Vedanta will become cynical. Only people who are retired. Vedanta is actually Vedanta or Gita. Usually, I don't know why, there is a feeling among all our people. Okay, if somebody is reading Gita, a young man is reading Gita, his own father will say, "Arey, why do you read now? Gita has to be read after retirement." Even parents are like that nowadays. Parents, they don't allow their children to even to learn shlokas. I have seen parents. And sometimes I persuade them, why don't you teach some shlokas to this fellow? So they are not interested, because if they teach shlokas, the parents are afraid that the child may unnecessarily become rather, it is a sort of regressive step. It is a sort of regression. That is what they feel. So it is a very unfortunate situation. Whereas what we have to see is, if you read Vedanta, you are not going to become cynical or pessimistic. You are going to be more active. So this is the phalam. This is the result of this Vedanta or the study of this Upanishad. Then when we come to this Upanishad, this introduction I think I have completed. Then we will see what is this Upanishad. This Upanishad I will be following one book called, this is actually printed in Kashi by Mahesh Research Institute. Mahesh Research Institute, it is edited by S. Subramanya Shastri. S. Subramanya Shastri. This book I don't recommend to you, because this book is a rather complicated in the sense, this book has only Sanskrit text. This has only Sanskrit text, then Shankaracharya's Bhashyam, and then maybe one or two other commentaries also by some other people. For example, Kathopanishad, there are two commentaries in addition to Shankaracharya. In addition to Shankaracharya, there is one writer, Anandagiri, the very familiar Anandagiri. Then there is another Gopala Yatindra. This Gopala Yatindra also has written some tika on that. I will be just following it, because if there are any good points, some good points from that, I will be trying to explain. But then, book I recommend to you is the Gita Press book. Gita Press, they have printed the book in Devanagari. The Gita text, the Gita Press, unfortunately, they don't have an English translation. But for English translation, you may have to see Ramakrishna Mission book. I don't know whether there are other books by Chinmaya Mission or any other mission. But Ramakrishna Mission books I have seen. it contains a beautiful, very excellent translation. But if somebody straight away goes to the translation, you may not be able to appreciate it altogether. So you have to see what exactly is the text, and then once you listen to the text and then see the translation, then you will understand the translation. Otherwise the translation also looks equally difficult or equally unscrutable. Sometimes you may feel, you may take it light. A particular word is used with great significance. Unless you know what exactly is the original word in this, original word in the text, you may just skip it over, and then you may not, you may gloss over, and then you may not realize the importance of that. So that is why what I recommend is you kindly try to get hold of the Gita text book. It may be available on the net also. Maybe many books are available on the net, so some such book you can take. And they recommend this translation by this Ramakrishna Mission Swamiji's. I think Gambhirananda or some Swamiji has done it. It's a very excellent thing. But I will be following this particular text. This Kathopanishad is actually is at the end of this Krishna Yajurveda. And Krishna Yajurveda is quite popular in these parts. That is this Andhra part. Krishna Yajurveda is quite popular, particularly in South India. And that too in Andhra Pradesh, Krishna Yajurveda is very popular. And this is one text which is falling under that category. I think we will start in the next class. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Avashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.